It's a long story, but I'll try to summarize it in 7 minutes once the slides are available. Brilliant. So nothing to disclose. So why do we need drug-eluting technology for below-knee vessels? Well, this is the statement that a lot of people believe, which is POBA is inadequate for BTK revascularization. And I put this statement for the sake of this talk, but I completely disagree with this statement. Because I think there is still a role for POBA. So what the evidence is showing us or making us believe is that POBA has a high rate of restenosis, high rate of reintervention, poor wound healing. This 4 is not good enough. And the 3 mechanisms that drive POBA failure are, as we heard before, elastic recoil, flow-limiting dissections, and new intimal hyperplasia. The slides on my screen are very small. I cannot read the slides on my screen. Guys, hello? The slides البرزنتيشن في السكرين مرة صغيرة. كبر لي هي. ماني شايفها. So we think this is essential, or POBA failure can cause delayed wound healing and increased risk of amputation. This is why people think that POBA is not good enough. An early enthusiasm for BTK eluting technology initially came and was driven by the success or its success in coronary vessels and the FEMPOP segment. And people said, well, why not? It might work in BTK vessels. And this enthusiasm was even further fueled by the debate BTK study, which showed promising results. It was the first randomized trial to show positive signals of paclitaxel balloons over POBA. But not long after that came the big strike, which is the impact deep trial. And it did not just show that they were equivalent, paclitaxel and POBA, but it demonstrated some critical or clinical safety signals against paclitaxel. But we have to remember that this study was not powered to assess safety of the device. And then all hell broke out in 2018 when Kopsanos came up with his paper and paclitaxel was almost completely taken away from the market. You all remember that. But then came this SweetPad 1 trial. And again, this is a pragmatic registry-based randomized control trial assessing patients with CLTI, and it again assessed paclitaxel versus POBA. And half of the population in the SweetPad trial had below-knee vessels, and again, did not show any difference. And then came the SweetPad for intermittent claudicants, no difference. So I think we're starting to understand why this is happening, and we're starting to appreciate that BTK vessels behave differently to FEMPOP vessels. They're much smaller, different wall composition. The patients are much, much sicker than those that present with FEMPOP disease. The hemodynamics of the BTK vessels are different, and the washout of the drug and the absorption of the drug is different. And then came this hope of this limus-based balloons, and it sort of emerged as a potential alternative to paclitaxel. And certainly the early results are promising, such as the ecstasy trial, which is led by Eddie Choke in Singapore. And it showed fantastic results. And we know that the drug is, well, the mechanism of the drug is different. It's cytostatic rather than cytotoxic. The lipid sort of solubility is different. So it's got a lot of, it behaves differently, and we think it might improve the outcomes. And there are ongoing trials still with regards to limus-based drugs, and we're still assessing the efficacy of those drugs. But to date, there are no mortality signals identified, which is good news. So is sirolimus also a mirage? Well, we don't know yet. We know it works different to paclitaxel, but we still need more robust long-term data from randomized studies to tell us whether it is actually better or not. And we have to remember that when paclitaxel started, there was also early enthusiasm from initial promising results. And BTK vessels will remain BTK vessels with all their challenges. And I don't know whether I call it renaissance or a glimpse of hope. I'd probably call it a glimpse of hope. There are some positive results or positive data coming from the live BTK, and we heard from our colleagues about that. It's comparing ESPRI, which is the um, uh, resorbable scaffolding, compared to POVA. But we have to again look at the inclusion criteria. It's proximal lesions with no distal disease, and it's short lesions less than 5 millimeters. So it is not really reflective of our day-to-day practice. Certainly, it shows some positive outcomes. The composite of limb salvage and primary patency showed favorable results to the resorbable stent. But remember, freedom from above ankle amputation remained high in both groups. And there are still long-term concerns and long-term unanswered questions about this technology. So the take-home message is that, yes, the results are promising, but we have to wait and see, and we have to consider its applicability in our day-to-day practice. And just when we thought that paclitaxel is dead below the knee, comes the deeper OUS studies. So it has re-emerged again as an adjunct to the retrievable stent, which we heard about, and I'm not going to bore you with the results of that study again, because we've already heard my colleague talk about it. So, mirage or reality? Well, certainly initially it all appeared like it was a mirage, but we're starting to understand that treating those patients in complex and drug selection is important, platform selection is important, and patient selection is even more important. So I would say that the future outlook is cautiously optimistic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Beautiful talk. So we're gonna switch to Dr. Isai, who's gonna. This is also an important feature, which is the best post-op medical treatment. So it's factor 10 inhibitors better than dual antiplatelet therapy. Do you have the answer?
I hope so. So before I start, I would like to give great thanks to the organizing committee